Last time, we showed you the STMD canister capturing carbon at the source, and how that captured carbon is released again at the power station. Today, we show you where it goes next, into a system that turns captured carbon into fuel, and cattle manure into the hydrogen that makes it affordable. By the end of this video, you'll understand the full pond cycle that turns carbon into oil-rich algae, how that algae is dried and delivered without ever touching a centrifuge, and how 10,000 head of cattle grazing at the Port of Townsville solve one of the biofuel industry's biggest cost problems. As the inventor of this system, I am asking you to stop and really think how systematically I have broken down and remedied the problems of producing biofuel before, and some of its exorbitant costs. When a spent STMD canister reaches the power station, the solid calcium carbonate inside is calcined at around 850 degrees, releasing the trapped CO2 as a pure gas, and regenerating the block for reuse. That released CO2 combines with the power station's own flue gas emissions and nutrient-dense municipal sewage effluent, and all three feed together into the algae ponds. Fed on that combined stream, algae reproduces rapidly across a runoff mesh, building a dense living layer. Once that layer is established, automated valves shut off the nutrient feed entirely. A second circuit flushes the mesh with clean water instead. The algae stays alive and photosynthesizing, but completely starved of nitrogen and phosphorus. Starved of what it needs to keep dividing, the algae shifts into survival mode, converting its structural sugars into dense oil reserves. Lipid content climbs from a baseline of 25% up to 60 to 75% of the cell's total weight. By day 5, the clean water is shut off too. The algae bakes dry in the sun directly on the mesh it grew on, eliminating mechanical centrifugation entirely. Historically, the single biggest cost block in the entire biofuel industry. Mechanical scrapers flake the dried algae straight off the mesh into airtight, UV-blocking bins, stopping oxidation before it starts. Each power station runs its own fleet of refrigerated trucks, pre-cooled to 10 to 15 degrees to prevent the dried algae self-heating in transit. Every one of the 10 power stations sits within a 10-hour drive of the Townsville megaplant, so one driver, one shift, gets it there every time. These numbers are anchored to real field data, not projections. Collinsville alone, 50 ponds, produces 2,882,587 litres a year. Scaled across all 10 power stations, that's 28,825,875 litres a year, legally earmarked as a mandatory strategic fuel reserve for our own defence force. Every fuel plant still needs hydrogen to refine that algae oil into usable fuel, and hydrogen is normally expensive, grid-heavy and imported. This system doesn't need any of that. 10,000 head of cattle, grazing on government land right at the Port of Townsville, produce manure that's converted through biogas into hydrogen, roughly 12,000 cubic metres of it every single day. That's free, on-site hydrogen, replacing the biggest hidden cost in biofuel refining. All of it arrives at one purpose-built megaplant at the Port of Townsville, not just processing algae, but built to take Queensland's full range of feedstocks, used cooking oil, beef tallow, canola, cottonseed, sorghum, molasses, and sugarcane bagasse, giving struggling sugarcane growers a genuine new market as global sugar demand falls. Carbon captured at the tailpipe, released clean at the power station, turned into oil by algae that never touches a centrifuge, refined using hydrogen that used to be a waste problem. That's video 4, the full loop working. This isn't a one-off project, it's an ongoing industry, refilling and regenerating STMD containers across the country, running the algae ponds, operating the biofuel plants, eventually needing tens of thousands of employees. Right as AI moves to take jobs across this country, SAFS moves in the opposite direction, building real work for real people. This is genuine financial sovereignty and productivity, the kind the current federal government, chasing its net zero ideology, doesn't understand. Subscribe as we move into what should happen next. 50 algae ponds, built around the mothballed Collinsville Power Station as the pilot site, renovated to add flue carbon-trapping feeding straight into those ponds, while the mega biofuel plant at Townsville Port is built to handle all of Queensland's biofuel, not just algae. From there, STMD drop-off points get set up around Townsville, with Hancock prospecting and the Queensland government preparing industry so cars can start being fitted with canister holders and hosing, not yet connected, but ready to plug in the moment the power station, plant and container manufacturing are up and running. Yes, a big investment from government at this stage, but one that builds a self-funding industry over the next 10 years, with everything returning to government, unlike the current net zero ideology.